Whenever therapists and coaches ask me about website photos, I always give them the same advice: hire a brand photographer. I've given lots of advice on this topic over on my blog, but in short, my thesis statement on brand photos is the content on your website represents the quality standard of your business. So making sure your photos are an accurate representation of the quality of services you provide is key. So blurry or pixelated photos, mismatched headshots, and generic stock photos all distract from the quality of your brand. So what happens when you have a website? Maybe you've purchased one of our website templates here, you've hired a photographer, but they've given you just a few headshots to work with. And you want to use more photos throughout your website that aren't necessarily headshots. So stock photography that you want to fill in throughout the rest of your website or your website template. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to choose stock photos that blend well with your custom photos so that your website looks cohesive and professional. So step one is to start with your professional photos, the photos that your photographer gave you. I'm going to use my photos here as an example. What I want you to do is look through your photos and see if you can notice a color theme. What colors show up in the photos overall? What's the tone like? What are the textures that appear in the photos? It can be helpful to look at your photos from a zoomed out perspective like this so that you don't get distracted by the content and you can see the overall colors that are appearing in the photos. So for my set of photos here, I'm seeing a lot of off-white cream, some beige, some rust reddish brown. I'm seeing lots of natural textures, sort of this woven texture throughout. We've got some natural oak wood, rich wood tones, some dried florals, and little amber accents. So again, we're just kind of looking for color and texture and tone here. And we also want to pay attention to what the lighting is like. So in all of these photos, there's no like harsh overhead light or even lamp light. All of these photos we're using natural light. So that's going to be really important as you go and search for stock photography, because you'll want to choose photos that were lit in a similar way to increase your chances of everything blending well. Once you've sort of visually analyzed everything yourself, something you can do is pull up a color palette generator and upload your images to generate a color palette so you can see exactly what colors are being used. So there's one here on Canva if you Google color palette generator on Canva. And then there's also Coolors, which I really like to use. Both are free tools, but I will show you Coolors just for the sake of this video. So I dropped in one of my photos, and as you can see, there's lots of earth tones going on. Like I mentioned, there's some off-white creams, a beige, sort of this rust brown color, some deeper rich wood tones. Another one of my photos dropped in here shows, again, earth tones. It's a little bit of a brighter photo, so we're getting some lighter off-whites, grays, but still sort of a rich brown color. The theme here is that both in the previous photo and this photo, all of these colors are on the warm end of the spectrum from cool colors to warm colors. So when you upload your photos, pay attention to that, the tone of your colors. Are your colors coming out on the cool end of the spectrum, or are they coming out warm? Because that will help you narrow down choosing the right stock photos for your website. Now, to give you another example, here's a different set of photos that I had taken years ago. And we can see when we look at the images as a whole, we can start to see sort of a color story come up. We have browns happening, but we have a lot more green in these photos. These photos are also taken outside, so on sort of an overcast day. So we have some grays, we have some softness, some soft light coming through. So when we added one of these photos to the color palette generator, we can see that palette itself is made up of a lot of greens. We do have some brown here as well, but green is the predominant color in these photos. So again, toward the warm end of the spectrum, but not as warm as the previous selection of photos that I showed. Now, once you have a sense of whether you're looking for warm colors or cool colors and sort of have an idea of the tone you want to look for, I recommend searching for stock photos on royalty-free stock photo sites like Pexels or Unsplash, or better yet, you can pay for your stock imagery on sites like Creative Market, Canva, and iStock. But regardless of where you search, you'll want to search based on color and tone rather than content. Content of the photo is important, but what's going to help your website feel the most professional and put together is if you can match or blend similar colors, textures, and tones. So if I'm looking for photos to match my brand, I'm going to look for warm photos with sort of minimal content. So I'm going to start with more minimal and just see what that gets me. And I'm already starting to see some photos that match the colors that showed up in my color palette over here. This one in particular would match really well. I'm also seeing some woven texture, some rich wood grain that would match my existing photos really well. There are some harsh shadows in here which are not present in my set of custom photos. So that's something that I would have to kind of put them side by side to see for myself if they really fit. But this one here might work as well. So just have a look at through the available options and look for those photos that have the similar colors and lighting situations. And then once you have a few stock photos picked out and downloaded to your computer, you can upload them into the same color palette generator and see what the color palette gives you. And if it's spitting out similar colors, it's okay if they're not exactly the same as far as color codes go, but I can tell that these colors are pretty similar to the colors that my custom photos were spitting out in this color generator. So I know that this photo is probably going to work really well with my brand. Now, this photo, on the other hand, I found it in my warm minimal search, but as you can see, the tones are coming out a little too orange. It is, the colors that it's generating are warm. They are on the warm side of the spectrum, but the overall color of the image is a little more orange than my liking for my brand. So I'm not going to use this photo. Now, a couple more pro tips when searching for stock photos. If you find a photo that you really like and matches really well or will blend really well, especially on Pexels or Unsplash, what I like to do is look at the photographer, the artist, and go to their page to see if they have any similar photos, because a lot of times photographers will take a set of photos that are all sort of similar. So I like to open up their profile in a new tab and look through their collection. And it looks like this particular person has the photo I liked in this collection here. So I'm going to look through to see if there's any other photos in this collection that might work with my brand. As you can see, the tone and the lighting is all very similar because it was likely shot on the same day. So we have some of the same items, a lot of the same colors. So we might be able to source a few photos from this collection. Now, if you find a photo that you really love and you really want to use, but it doesn't quite match the colors or tone of your existing photos, like I mentioned, this one doesn't quite match my collection of photos, something that you could try is adding a photo filter to the photo in question to see if you can get it to match the rest of your photos, or using the same photo filter throughout all of your photos. So I'm here in Canva and I can go to edit and search through the filters to see if I can find one that will help it match a little bit. And I have the other one of my custom photos here to compare. That might get it sort of close. That's even closer because it kind of dials down the orange a little bit. I'd probably go with that filter if I really wanted to use this photo with my brand. And Canva is not the only option for adding photo filters. You could use an app on your phone like Lightroom or the VSCO app. Something else you could do is ask your photographer if they have a recommendation for a preset. Sometimes photographers use a color preset on all of their photos to help them all have a similar tone. So you could apply that same preset to any stock photos that you find. So that's another option as well. Now, if you're really struggling to find visual cohesion in terms of color, but you found a bunch of photos that have the content, the style of content that you like, but they just don't really match in color, another option is to make all of your photos black and white. So even your custom photos, you could make those black and white as well. That's going to make it so that all the photos across your website match a little bit better. However, if you're going to use this option, proceed with caution. Therapy websites in particular often need to feel warm and inviting, and black and white photos can sometimes feel cold, especially depending on which black and white filter you use. So I would say only use this option if the colors, the rest of your colors on your website, are warm colors. So for instance, here on the Veritas template, we do have some black and white photos, but we're balancing it out with warm tones and some color photos. So now just a few final notes on using stock photography on your website. I want to mention that any stock photography that you use should be a supporting character, not the main focal point. So your custom photos and headshots should be in really high visibility spots, like on your home page, on your about page, even on your service and contact pages. And any photography that you use on your website should support your content, not distract from it. So if you're placing a photo somewhere in hopes of communicating something without words, for instance, on therapy websites, I often see like a picture of a stack of rocks to communicate like peace and calm. Just make sure you're communicating those things with words as well. Like, don't rely on your photos to tell the whole story. And that's not recommended because photos are so subjective. One person could think that photo means one thing and another could think something completely different. So all that to say, photos are very important on a website, but they are not the main storyteller on your website. That's where your words should tell the story. Now, if you need more help with this, our Squarespace templates for therapists and coaches are already designed with stock images that have been curated to be visually cohesive, as you can see here on the Veritas template. All you have to do is replace the demo headshots with your own, and you can proceed. You can also swap out all of the demo images or the stock images that you see for your own stock photos. If you don't want to start over and search for new stock photos yourself, you're welcome to use the stock photos that you see here. Now, on the other hand, if you need personalized help, if you'd like us to source stock photos for you, you can also book us for design days, and we'll curate a collection of your very own stock photos that will blend with your existing set of custom photos. Because sourcing good stock photos that blend with your existing brand is really tricky work. And if you can't or don't want to do it on your own, that's okay. That's what we're here for. You can head to holdspacecreative.com/design days to learn more. Otherwise, shop our premium Squarespace templates for therapists and coaches to get started on your own.